In this video, we are going to discuss about the significance of respiration. All organisms, animals, plants or fungi, or even unicellular organisms need energy to build new cells and also for their daily needs. That energy obtained by the oxidation of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. In other words, we can say that combustion of the proteins, carbohydrates, fats is called respiration, and this respiration is useful to eat the energy. It results in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. For the energy needs, some animals which have the facility of the availability of the oxygen, they use aerobic respiration. The organisms which have the shortage of oxygen, they respire anaerobically. Let us see the breathing in humans. By inspiration, we take oxygen into the lungs. This oxygen diffuses into the blood, and from there it is carried to the tissues. In the tissues, cellular respiration occurs. In other words, we can say that combustion of food material takes place in the tissue. Energy is released. Along with that, carbon dioxide also produced. That carbon dioxide is taken back by the blood to the lungs. From lungs, this carbon dioxide is sent out. Elimination of gases from the lungs is called expiration. Here, the organisms are getting energy by the oxidation of the food material. For that, oxygen is loaded into the body at certain points. Those may be lungs, gills, body surface, etc. The glucose undergoes glycolysis and forms pyruvates. These pyruvates or pyruvic acid is not only formed from the glucose, from amino acids and glycerol also these pyruvates form. These pyruvates enter into the citric acid cycle, and at last in the electron transport, ATPs are produced. ATP is produced at 2-3 points at a glycolysis and at a citric acid cycle, the electron transport. For this, oxidation is required. For the glycolysis and during this citric acid cycle, there is no need of oxygen. Here, during the glycolysis and citric acid cycle, hydrogen ions are liberated. These hydrogen ions are collected by some vehicles called NAD+, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. These NAD+, it will carry the hydrogen and delivers it at its destination. In the citric acid cycle, oxygen is not participating directly, but hydrogen ions are produced. These are carried by the NAD+ to the target regions. During the electron transport, the hydrogen ions which are transported by the NAD+, when NAD+ is loaded with hydrogen ion, then we call it NADH. So this loaded NADH, they take the hydrogen to the electron transport. There, oxygen reacts with the hydrogen and forms water. Thus, the oxygen is useful for unloading the hydrogen ions from NADH and making ready the NAD+ to collect the hydrogen ions again from the citric acid cycle or from glycolysis. Suppose if oxygen is not there, hydrogen ions cannot get down from the NADH. So there are no transporting vehicles to carry these ions. It will affect the citric acid cycle. Thus, oxygen is involved in removal of hydrogen ions from NADH. Anyhow, At the end of electron transport, ATP are produced. This is aerobic respiration. In anaerobic respiration, the glucose undergoes glycolysis and forms the pyruvates. In the absence of oxygen, this material undergoes fermentation. Here, oxidation of the food is not required. Oxygen role is not there. These pyruvates undergo fermentation and form ethanol and ATP. This is called ethanol fermentation. One more method is there in the fermentation. In the place of ethanol, if lactic acid forms, lactic acid and ATP are formed. This is called lactic acid fermentation. Generally, this type of fermentation occurs in the muscles. When the muscle undergoes stress and at that time, lactic acid is produced and stored in the muscle. Temporarily, the muscle loses its ability to contract. That is called fatigue. Both these processes can be called anaerobic respiration. So by this we can understand that in anaerobic respiration, ATP produced and either ethanol or lactic acid are produced. In the aerobic respiration, the ATP produced. No lactic acid, no ethanol. Due to citric acid cycle, the net gain of ATP is 2. From the glycolysis, 2 ATPs are produced. On total, in the aerobic respiration, in the eukaryotes, the net gain is 36 ATPs. In the prokaryotes, net gain is 38 ATPs. But in the case of anaerobic respiration, 2 ATPs are produced. So, aerobic respiration is more efficient than the anaerobic respiration. For that, the organisms need oxygen. Oxygen is used for the oxidation in the aerobic respiration that occurs in the tissues. To transport that oxygen to the target site, one system is required. That is called a respiratory system.